Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Convergence from the High Republic by Zoraida Cordova. This is the first adult novel in Phase 2 of the High Republic, but is the third overall book released thus far. We have Path of Deceit, which was the YA book first released. I thought this was the best YA book we've gotten. And then we also got Quest for the Hidden City, which I also really loved. I thought this was well done middle grade. And I have book reviews for both of these, full reviews if you want to see them. So let's get into Convergence. This was different because traditionally they've released the adult novels first and then done the middle grade and YA either later or adjacently. But for some reason they decided to put the adult novel last in this phase. And I actually think it worked quite well. I think that this had a good build-up for this phase, and the world building was a natural flow. The world building of this book to Convergence worked really well. The biggest problem a lot of people have with the High Republic, I think, is fixed here. But then there's other problems that this book doubles down on. So it's like, it does some things better than the other books and some things worse. So let's get into that. The first thing is, what makes this book better than the other High Republic adult novels? This book has a much smaller cast. I know a lot of people, a lot of book reviewers, a lot of my friends who read the High Republic complain that it is too large a cast, and complain that, particularly in Phase 1, they felt like they couldn't follow all the characters. They couldn't follow all the timelines. They couldn't follow everything and understand everything. And they felt that there was not enough character development because none of the characters got enough time. Well, thankfully, this book has a much smaller cast, and what cast we do have are all very different. You know, this book takes place, the basic pitch of the book is there's these two planets, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of them, but it's Iram and Ellenroch, whatever. I haven't listened to the audiobook, so I don't know how they're pronounced. But these two planets they've been in constant war for years. Members of their royal families have been killed, and many other people have been killed, and their resources are drying up, and they're both desperate, and they're both at the brink of losing everything. And so this whole book is about these two, some of their leaders realizing maybe we need to come to peace. And that peace is brokered through the Republic and through the Jedi. And so they basically come to an agreement that the leaders of both countries are willing to accept, but the people of those countries are not willing to accept. Now, if you read the blurb of the book, read the front jacket, it reveals what this agreement is. I urge you not to read the jacket because I think it works much better as a surprise in the book. But I think you can see it coming. I think it's pretty obvious you can see it coming. But I read the jacket before I even started the book, and I was like, all right, well, I know where this is going. And so I was quite disappointed by that. So as part of this agreement, as part of the whole negotiations, so I won't spoil what the agreement is, but as part of the negotiation process, there's two chancellors. They have like a dual job. One of them stays on Coruscant. The other one goes to different planets to do job as chancellor, kind of like a traveling dignitary. And the traveling chancellor goes to negotiate this peace. But the chancellor that stays in Coruscant, she's more suspicious of her fellow chancellor. And so she sends her son, named Axel Greylark, to join the negotiations to kind of keep an eye on everything. And Axel is a roguish, scoundrel character. He is, if Han Solo was dialed up to an 11, he is just a scoundrel. And he's actually quite funny to read in the book. He has some hilarious lines in the book. He worked really well as a character. And then you also have another main character is the main character of Gela, who is this Jedi, and she has a lot of the standard aspects of what makes a Jedi, but she just messes up a lot. Sometimes Jedi defy the Council, and sometimes Jedi defy orders, and that's what makes them edgy and cool. With her, it's more that she just does things that just mess up, and she just keeps she's not intentionally messing up. It's just she's trying to help. She's trying to do the right thing, and it's like she says it's like out of the frying pan into the fire situations, and so she's kind of sent to be part of this negotiation, and then the other two characters are the heirs, the family members of the next in line of these two leaders of these two planets. You have the Fantu from Irem, and then on Ellenrock you have Captain Ziri. I was like, yeah. Anyway, Ziri. The two of them serve as the the heirs for their respective countries, and they're sent as part of the negotiations to work on the negotiations between them. And so the book setup, it has this kind of a disaster element where something happens that causes a big spiral at the beginning, similar to how Light of the Jedi happened, with a big opening, but this is much smaller and more intimate. This is everything's happening to these characters, not necessarily to the big universe. And so you have that kind of disaster opening, then you have the negotiation in the middle, and then the fallout of the negotiation at the end of the book. And it's really well paced, it's very exciting, it's very action-packed. All of this book is just superb. Where this book falters, when I talked about what it doubled down on, this book is not going to appeal to everyone. There are stylistic choices made in the High Republic with the way they use dialogue, the way they use themes, the way they use characters that just turn off a lot of the fan base, because it's just not like they feel it just doesn't necessarily work in Star Wars. I personally overall think it does, but I recognize the fact that this turns people off. And I think that they can adjust all of this to make those fans more happy. And unfortunately, this book doesn't really do that. And so stylistically, this book is not going to win over new fans of the High Republic. It's not going to bring in people who never read before. So the problem is that the High Republic is only going to... You have an existing audience who read Phase 1, and if you want to keep up the sales, you have to keep all of them, because I don't think you're going to increase any more readers by this book, except maybe people who are Zoraida Cordova fans and said, hey, I want to read one of her books, but I don't think she has that many that weren't already reading these books anyway. So that's one of the problems I have with it. Also, the plot is a little predictable at points, but there was one major surprise that I was like, ooh, that's interesting. There was one moment that I was like, wait, what? There was one plot point that just blew me away, but overall, it was a pretty predictable book. It had some good themes, but I think that overall, like when it talks about as a well-crafted book, I think this is the best crafted of the adult novels for the High Republic. But it's not the most enjoyable to me. Like, if I was just going to pick up a High Republic book for reread, it probably wouldn't be this one, even though this is the lightest of the adult novels to read. It doesn't have as heavy, deaths or as heavy weight to it that the Phase 1 books had. I think that those books just were so enjoyable and just so fun. This one, it's also fun, but just for some reason, it doesn't have that rereadability aspect for me yet. Maybe one day I'll feel differently, but as of right now, I enjoyed Light of the Jedi and Rising Storm just a tad better. But still, I read this book in like a day and a half. Like, it was a super quick read. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it like a 9.2, I believe, like a 9.2, 9.3. It's a good book. It has a few flaws, but overall, I'm very pleased with it. And to be honest, if we're talking about the phase, so you have the different phases are like the overall era, and then you have the different waves, which is when they release the books together. So this is wave 1 of Phase 2. That can get a little confusing, but wave 1 of Phase 2, all the books are bangers. All the books are fantastic. So it's great to have, normally every phase has had at least one book that I did not enjoy. At least one book. And this phase, I loved all 3 of the books. So that bodes really well for Phase 2. And if they can keep this up, if they can keep this up for the rest of Phase 2, I will certainly be more bullish on the High Republic as a whole. I already was, but this will make me more bullish. So I really enjoyed Convergence. If you've read the book, let me know your thoughts. I know a lot of people have been asking me in my review. So leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'd love to discuss with you. If there are things you loved, tell me what you loved. If there were things you didn't like, let me know that too. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.